So you guys are basically like best friends.
We're like VC Eskimo bros.
That's actually very interesting. Nobody's done that in crypto.
There's a lot of ZK magic going on there.
There is on the back end.
There's a lot. He knows about the rods.
Everyone knows about the rods.
How do I
They're very
not know
cool.
about it?
Welcome to EigenLayer Unlocked, an interactive educational journey through the EigenLayer ecosystem created by technical founders and builders for the entire crypto community. A special thank you to our partners, AltLayer, Polymer, Authentic, Skate, and Lagrange for helping to make this happen. Our goal is to raise the collective knowledge of the EigenLayer AVS ecosystem and unpack the technical designs of the top teams in space. Welcome to EigenLayer Unlocked. Yo, welcome back to the Roll Up here with Ismael, Gaj, and Luca. Welcome in, Ismael.
Thanks for having me.
It's good to be here. So you guys your first round was led by 1KX, so was yours. And then Founders Fund follow-up.
Yep.
So you guys are basically like best friends.
We're
We
like
are.
VC Eskimo bros.
Yes. Ismael, what better way to start than what Luca was interested, which is your collaboration with Azuki recently. You were talking about, it came out for their anime chain. Obviously, you've been on the pod before, so we can give you the introduction as the Jack Smart ZK guy. But let's just get right into it. How does your ZK coprocessor help teams like Azuki, and what's the kind of collab there?
Yeah, so our ZK coprocessor is a way for on-chain applications to access more data. It lets you build things on-chain that you couldn't build a month ago, 2 months ago. And so as part of a new launch for a version of our coprocessor, we've been working very closely with the Azuki team, what we call Odyssey, which is an interactive digital experience to allow Azuki community members to kind of experience what it is to interact with Azuki data in a new way. And we think that this type of paradigm is going to extend very soon into the types of applications that members of popular NFT communities such as Azuki or such as Pudgy have the opportunity to kind of experience on chain and build on top of. And so as part of that announcement, we had a very interesting UI and kind of digital exploration of what we thought of as this universe of on-chain data surrounding Azuki. And we expect to have a bunch of interesting stuff coming on top of that soon.
Very cool. And so when you say this kind of universal experience that allows people to have, or NFT holders to do certain things with this data, could you give us a bit of like a practical example of what that is and kind of why it's not possible pre using a coprocessor?
Yeah. So let me make this really concrete.
Yeah.
So Gaj had a great tweet a few weeks ago.
He has a lot of those, by the way.
He does.
Thank you.
He does. Great Twitter game. About active reward distribution. I think it might be a term you coined. I don't know.
Yeah,
But,
it's an old term.
well, what's old is new. So
He made it new.
Yeah, exactly.
But so what made it great and what I liked about that tweet was this idea that on-chain dApps can distribute rewards iteratively and continuously to users. In terms of not just waiting after, for example, a bunch of points have accumulated, do some airdrop, let's say every 6 months, 12 months, but this idea that every single time a user interacts with something, they get closer and closer to a reward. Pudgy, you guys had the collector program for the 1,000-day Soulbound token. And I think that's a fantastic example of an active reward distribution. And we like to think of kind of coprocessors as a way to iterate on this stuff and to let you build stuff on chain that really kind of use data.
Gotcha. Cool. So the kind of one-time airdrop method isn't as extensive and useful as kind of this way to really build a system that creates users that come back and that creates a way for people to continuously kind of get like a dopamine hit almost. It's like you're just constantly being rewarded for actively using this.
Exactly. Every time I use the app, it's aware of your usage.
Yeah.
It can access your previous usage and it can incentivize you in cool ways. Discounts, cashback, incentives, all of this stuff that we're used to in Web 2, but now you can do it on chain in Web 3.
Gotcha. So Luca, how do you see kind of discounts, cashbacks, these kind of like coupons? How do you see that applicable to something like Abstract Chain?
Well, dude, I want to be the consumer guy. So all of a sudden, this guy's speaking my language. I'm actually super thankful for you breaking it down the way that you broke it down. It just felt like it really clicked this time around. So I appreciate that. Ultimately, that's the backbone of consumer. And the thing is a lot of people today, and I think kind of what he's addressing is actually, if you take maybe a deeper dive or frame it in a different way, it's actually super impactful because when you think about consumer being the final frontier, which I think we'd probably all agree, like that's where we have to go, incentives today in crypto have been so broken. And in reality, in the real world, there are tons of incentives. Like there's, Amex, points, cash back, things like that. And I think he really enables the door opening for, I think, this new set of incentives, which I think are like more of the cherry on top and are more akin to what we're seeing in the real world rather than these like totally discombobulated, weighted in one direction incentives that because you don't have that data, you can't really, define appropriately. So I actually appreciate that breakdown. I totally clicked for me while you were speaking. So we're definitely going to do something together.
Awesome. Excited for it.
I'm excited for it too.
It takes me back to like the DeFi summer days of, you put 2 tokens into a DEX and you get constant stream.
Yeah, totally. It was so fun. I remember over the last 2 years, I've tried every reward program and the points program was the most boring part.
Yeah.
Because in 2020 and 2021 maybe there's active composability. You had there's a yield farm, there's a swap, then there's a yield farm on top of it, then there's a aggregator, there's an auto compounder, then there's an aggregator which combines these two things with lending and borrowing, does these gamifying things, which is really lacking right now, and coprocessors can make it really possible instead of posting Merkle roots every 2 weeks, every 1 week.
Yeah. So Ismael, how are you kind of thinking about bringing this to teams like Abstract, to Azuki? When you're speaking to these teams, is there a particular use case or a particular activation that they're excited about, or is it kind of like a wide spectrum?
I think from our standpoint, what we really want to do is to have integrations and partnerships with teams that kind of meet their community with what their community is interested in. So when we work with certain DeFi protocols, there's aspects of the integration that might be proving, funding rate calculations or proving, incentives on top of farming pools. Things that might be very core to protocol design, but the average user might not be aware that they're experiencing. Then we talk about something more in consumer. It's really about understanding kind of how does users in this community interact with that community, and how will users in this community interact with execution spaces and chains that are consumer-facing, that are built for them to really have this interesting on-chain experience on. And so for us, it's really about trying to make sure that we kind of understand really what is that substrate for interaction, and then trying to build things in that kind of meet this community where they kind of really want to find these features.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, I think that meeting the community where they are, and each specific project kind of has a specific need, right? It's Luca's project may need, we want to incentivize our community through our portal to do X, Y, and Z.
Exactly.
Dex's may be I want, more complex ordering or different types of kind of user benefits. I kind of want to switch over into how you guys are utilizing EigenLayer and your AVS. So you guys have some commitments already to secure Lagrange. Let's talk about kind of your restaking commitments, and this is this is in October now, so things are changed. And I'm just kind of curious on that experience with working as an AVS in EigenLayer.
Yeah, so Lagrange, our prover network's in production right now. It's been in production for about 4 months.
Yeah.
And so it's secured right now by, I think, about 6 billion in restaked ETH in USD equivalent. Currently have about 70 operators. And so what our operators and what our network does is really generate proofs in a highly scalable, decentralized fashion. One of the things that we really want to be able to promise to all the teams we work with is that we can have the highest guarantees of liveness and uptime out of anyone serving proofs in crypto. And so because of that, we want to deploy our prover across some of the best operators in the space, secured with incentives that ensure that when they're asked to deliver a proof for an incentives program, for an on-chain experience, for a DeFi protocol, et cetera, they can do so in a way that you can trust that the proof will get there on time. That's why we've deployed our prover network on top of EigenLayer with our coprocessor. It's currently been up for about 6 months and delivered about 3 million proofs.
Awesome. So when you guys are working with a team like Azuki, eventually maybe Abstract, what is the Lagrange business model to kind of turn the collaboration into a flywheel of revenue, or a flywheel of kind of a metric which you guys can assess and try to grow?
Yeah. So from a purely revenue standpoint, we make money by charging for proofs. Operators compute proofs, and there's a cost that they spend to compute that proof. And then in terms of the amount that they're remunerated for doing that proof, they get some margin on that, proportionate to the time value of the money that they've spent. And so in line with that, what we really try to do is to find use cases that really make sense as these kind of long-term continued engagements. So an incentive program that is core to kind of how a community interacts with a chain, for example, is something that we love integrating with. We can be very flexible in trying to identify what the cost is now and what kind of works with the community where it is. And then ideally our costs decrease over time as proving infrastructure gets faster and faster. And then eventually it creates this ideally like mutually accretive relationship where both us and then the partners that we work with are able to kind of have interesting things they deliver. And our network obviously is able to deliver revenue back to our operators for generating these proofs.
Very interesting. There's a lot of ZK magic going on there.
There is on the back end.
There's a lot. I did a technical podcast with a guy on Ismael. What is his name?
Shravan. Yeah.
Shravan. Oh,
It's a year ago almost.
dude, a year ago. He was drawing ZK proofs by hand on a PowerPoint.
It was, yeah. It was a classic.
It was a classic for sure. Coming back to kind of the potential collaboration here with Abstract, if you guys were to kind of draw something up, I know that we're just putting you on the spot here, but so Luca's got this portal, right, where there's this big distribution and they're driving users to this portal. This portal is almost like your like app store. It's like your gateway to the chain. It's almost like, you open up your phone and it's the Abstract portal. If I'm a user coming back to this portal, I have specific preferences. I have behaviors. How can Lagrange track user behavior? Further incentivize users in this portal, and how could you potentially make the Abstract chain more powerful by using your coprocessor?
Yeah, I mean, so I can suggest a couple ideas, but I'd obviously love to hear from Luca since the vision of Abstract chain is Luca's. But I would say that very broadly, anytime a user transacts or uses Abstract chain, there's a transaction, there's potentially a receipt, and there's maybe a mutation of a storage slot. And across all of this, we can determine the history of how a user interacted, what they've done, how long they've done it for, where they've put liquidity, what apps they use. And then from there, the next time they interact, every app they're interacting with can be aware of what they've done. This can even permeate into L1 data. Have they held a pudgy? Do they hold a little pudgy? Do they hold one of the pudgy rods? A lot of things.
He knows about the rods.
Everyone knows about the rods.
How do I
very
not know
cool.
about the rods?
You don't know about the rods.
What are the rods?
Got to get your pudgy game up.
Dude,
damn, okay.
It's equivalent to like if in the world there's like a Mona Lisa or like a Van Gogh. In crypto, there's like a pudgy rod. It's like the similar equivalence, if that makes sense. I'll show you what it is. It's like
It's
complete
deep.
the line work, the lore. It's beautiful.
The
Something
eggs
you'd hang.
they
It's something.
hatch.
Yeah, it's something you would hang up in your office for sure.
That's cute.
It sounds to me like this is probably like the beginnings of like actually being able to run like an ads manager on chain and things like that. It seems like you were like kind of the pickaxe to that gold rush. Am I correct in assuming that? Like, do you?
Yeah.
What takes you from like? What's the next step to that like flow to that ads manager style process? I guess we would probably need like a native explorer. There's probably like a couple things missing.
Yeah.
But I'm sure Brave could probably like plug in here.
And you need some sort of like tracking, which is a problem in Web3 though. People don't like Facebook pixels. They don't
Because
like
wallets aren't people is the
No,
problem.
exactly.
That's the. Think you can solve that problem?
So
How do you solve the wallets are not people problem? Because that seems to be like the crux of everything. Maybe you have some.
Wait,
input.
this can be like integrated with what Camp is building, where you
Yeah.
there's like some sort of like attestation and like you can see on chain that
some identity layer. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
It's interesting because wallets aren't people, but a lot of users are willing to link certain wallets of theirs if it means that they're going to get some type of on-chain reward for doing so.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Like link their identity.
Yeah, they link number of their wallets together. If they have, for example, a number of NFTs or a number of actions they do across these, at some point, I've found that from other protocols we've interacted with, they'd be willing to link those if it means that
for
they
money,
get
for
discounts.
sure.
and
Yeah.
incentives.
Well, I mean, it's like,
They might not link every single one, but they'll link the ones that they're okay people seeing.
it's like on my flight here, it's like, do you have a United account? Because if you do, you sign up and you get free Wi-Fi or something.
Yeah, you're signing up.
You're signing up. You know what I'm saying? So to me, it seems like the Lagrange pitch is like, we're going to build experiences on chain that are similar to like rewards programs or similar to coupons, perks, personalization on chain, which is what we're kind of missing.
But you guys are the data to that. You're of no interest in making any of those public interfaces, like those forward-facing consumer interfaces, or you do eventually?
We don't right now.
Okay.
We really want to provide the tools to do so.
Right.
Partly because when we look at our team's expertise, we have very strong expertise in ZK. We have very strong expertise in kind of building all of these systems. We want to work very closely with the teams that have expertise in building the more consumer-facing things on top of these. And we can always decide where we want to kind of set the abstraction in terms of how much is useful for us to build versus how much is useful for partners to kind of independently own on top of that. But at the core, we really want to provide tooling.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, it does seem like in crypto is still so early with things like streaming payments, even or like just small things that are just so natural to us in the real world. Things like coupons and long-term retention. And it kind of reminds you of like retargeting ads on Facebook,
Totally.
where, somebody opens your ad and you just hit them again, or like an email sequence where you just get retargeted if you abandon a cart or something. So I think there's a lot of ties. Let's kind of...
That's actually very interesting. Nobody's done that in crypto.
Yeah.
Where the longer you don't interact with an app, the more the incentive you receive to re-interact with it becomes.
Yeah.
We know what's the next stunt.
We do.
Yes.
That's right.
Let's go.
So where are you guys at in development, Ismael, and kind of what's coming next as we come to a wrap here?
Yeah, so our prover network's been in production for about 4 months at this point. Our ZK coprocessor, we had a first version that we launched also 4 months ago. And we've since launched a new version that we call V1 that has much more expressive compute, much more data can compute over, and a much more kind of developer ergonomic experience around that. We have a number of iterations planned on top of this new version of our coprocessor, both kind of core technical stuff to improve speed and performance, as well as much more user-facing stuff in terms of improving the experience of building on it, and then being able to support new types of computation at even larger scale.
Beautiful. I'm bullish. Are you bullish?
I'm super bullish.
You've been vocally bullish on Lagrange on Twitter for a while.
Dude, I'm so bullish. I have no bags, but I run the operator well.
Disclosure,
I have some bags.
I have bags in both Lagrange and abstract chain here,
well,
guys.
I have bags in Eigen. It's the same thing. No?
Well, Ismael, thank you for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
Of course, very much appreciate you guys having us.
Always. Cool.
Amazing.